we were lucky enough to option out two large property packages during the 2011-2012 gold boom. And so a ton of work was done. Something like $20 million was spent in generative exploration, a few initial drill holes on a couple of targets, and most importantly, just a huge amount of baseline geochemical data.
Well, hello to viewers tuning into Assay TV, and I'm very pleased to be speaking with Scott Birdell today of Snowline Gold. Snowline is an exploration company focused on developing greenfield gold assets in the Yukon. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, glad to be here, Adam.
Scott, could you just start us off for investors new to Snowline to give us a sort of top-line view of the company?
Sure. So Snowline is a new Yukon-focused gold exploration company. We have a district-scale portfolio covering multiple projects in the prospective Selwyn Basin of the Yukon, as well as projects elsewhere in the territory. It's built on the work that my father and I have done over the past 3 decades in building a portfolio, and basically we've, with the recent gold upswing, we've gotten the enthusiasm to be able to bring our portfolio public.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a great story, and really good long-term vision that you've had. Acquiring these projects over the years. It's a huge material portfolio, and you've amassed it, as you said, with your father, which is great. But what's the strategy behind developing such a large portfolio of assets?
Sure. Well, part of it is hedging. As you go with any project, the odds in the industry are I guess the odds. Most projects don't work out, but at the same time, while we've spent so much time in so many different areas in the Yukon, we've kind of stumbled into what looks to be a new mineral district, and we were lucky enough to option out two large property packages during the 2011-2012 gold boom, and so a ton of work was done. Something like $20 million was spent in generative exploration, a few initial drill holes on a couple of targets, and most importantly, just a huge amount of baseline geochemical data. And from that, in an area that just hadn't been explored before, these new deposit models started to come to light, and new targets started to come to light with kilometer scale geochem anomalies in soils and stream sediments that we're starting to get into. And so that's part of the advantage here is, we quietly have been chipping away at this district and have been able to put together this huge land package. And so having, not just one prospect that we're getting into, but a new district it's very exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. Excellent. So could you tell us a little bit more about the Selwyn Basin then, and what's quite interesting about the geology there?
Sure, that's a great question, because the Selwyn Basin is actually analogous to the Great Basin in Nevada, which I think most investors would be familiar with. And Nevada's gold output, of course, is as a state compares to most nations in the world. And so its sibling geological province, formed at the same time off the same ancestral margin of North America, is now parked up in the Yukon Territory, and it has seen relatively little work. It doesn't have the exposure that you have in Nevada, and it hasn't been stampeded over by prospectors in the same way that Nevada has. And so only recently have similar deposit types started to be recognized up in the Yukon, and so we're fortunate to have it right here in our backyard and to be able to dust these rocks off.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so focusing in on the flagship projects, if you like, you've got Einarson. Why don't we start there? Can you tell us a little bit more about this asset, and then we can go into some of the drilling work that you've been doing as well?
Sure. So Einarson is like I say, it's another district scale project, one of actually two adjacent district scale projects. Off the top of my head, it's 60,000 hectares, give or take. So it's a big land package, and that's whittled down from an initial exploration target area of about 4 times that size. And based on that baseline data that we have covering a Luxembourg-sized geological area, we've kind of whittled it down, so to speak, to that still giant package. And on that we have multiple targets very interesting geochemical anomalies, very interesting surface discoveries, gold grab samples on surface up to 34 grams. And just this season, we've started to drill one of the targets. So it's the initial drill program on that target, phase 1 program, and we have hit it was blind targets. It was kind of a little nerve-wracking to actually go and put a drill on it. We finally got this company going, and now we have to put our money where our mouth is. And it's just this float train of these big, beautiful mineralized boulders coming down this creek, and the sources weren't necessarily obvious, but we had our thoughts on where they were coming from. And we've drilled it. I think we're on hole 18 this morning as the things progress out there. And so far on the first 17 holes, we've hit some kind of mineralization in every single hole. Sometimes it's just a half meter of something just kind of shiny. Other places we're hitting intervals of 10, 15 plus meters, and sometimes multiple in a hole. So you have several of these zones across like 130 meters in a drill hole. So for us, it's very exciting. And of course, we had a release out a couple of weeks ago. We got the first set of assays back from some of these holes, and these were just the initial holes, not the ones we're most excited about, but even those have, if the rest of the system works out, have ore grade intervals of about 4 grams over 7 meters and over 4 meters right near surface. And so that was just, and to us, that's just the smoke. So, we can't really say for sure until we get the assays back on these bigger holes, but you look at the rocks side by side and it's hard not to get pretty excited.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great results back so far, and really good consistency on finding mineralization. This campaign's still ongoing. Do you have sort of key dates for when you're looking to complete this, and then assay everything, and then look to the next phase?
We do. So we've rushed one hole. You can actually see pictures of it in that release I mentioned. That's hole 11 from the Jupiter zone. And so we're expecting those results back in the near future, in a matter of weeks. And so that will be, I think, pretty telling for that target. So yeah, we're really excited to get those back. And the rest of the holes have similar zones, similar styles of mineralization. So we're pretty excited across the board, but those are not rushed. And as has been the case in recent years, labs are backed up again. And so I don't expect to see those back in the near future. And it's while we're very excited by the results, it's early stage, and so we figure to make the most of this season, we're not going to start resource delineation drilling this year. And so we've kind of stepped out to do a few more, I guess not quite wildcat holes, but definitely getting more adventurous with where we put the drill. We've already drilled off, I shouldn't say drilled off, but we've tested spots along a 900 meter strike length, and now we're kind of stepping off that strike length altogether and stepping out to more than a kilometer, just to get kind of more bang for our buck in terms of figuring out what's out there. And that should wrap up in the next week or so, that phase 1 drilling at Jupiter, and then we're looking to move the drill down to another target. So again, just trying to open a few different jars as we go into the winter season and figure out kind of what we've got out there.
Yep. Indeed, plenty of scope for expanding the resource. Okay, let's move on to the Rogue property then. What's the property showing from your early exploration there?
Yeah, so early exploration is pretty encouraging. We've been shoring up targets, and so Rogue, just for context, is another very large district scale geological story, and it's actually kind of tied into the Einarson story because it's just to the south of it. And you have these, whereas Einarson is sedimentary hosted, similar in a lot of ways to a lot of the mineralization you see in places not only like Nevada, but even some of this epizonal orogenic stuff. If anyone has an eye for geology and is following the story coming out of Newfoundland, and down at Rogue, you have these big intrusions that are just poking through this same stratigraphy, these same rocks, and it's kind of what you see in Alaska at places like Fort Knox, and potentially even Pogo. But you have these intrusions coming through and just driving fluids which drive mineral deposits. And so our early season work there has been encouraging. We've basically, we've known that we wanted to drill it since the start of the year, as the company came together, but we've just been kind of taking our time while the drill is up at Inerson and refining these targets. So historically, grab samples go to 152 grams per ton there. I went out with the independent QP to go and verify those historic results, and we found visible gold in our hand samples. So that was, very encouraging to see on just picking it up off the surface on an untested target. Our work so far there this year continues to encourage us. We've done an extensive soil survey over the target area, and we have done drone magnetic survey. So we have some really good high resolution magnetic data over this intrusion and the surrounding kind of cooked up rocks to help us figure out the geometry of it all, as well as just some good geological mapping. And we're at the point where we're ready to put a drill down there.
Excellent. That's great. So just for viewers who are not too familiar with the situation of where these assets are, what's the scenario on the ground? How have you been able to operate? You're obviously there in the Yukon. It's great to have a management team that close by, but what's the infrastructure and what's the setup?
Sure. So right now it's fairly early stage, and so we are air supported. We have fixed wing into camp and into nearby airstrips to bring down the exploration costs, and then we do helicopter supported field work at this point, which is kind of a double-edged sword. I know there's a knee-jerk reaction to say, well, that's very expensive, but at the same time, there are other competitive factors that balance with that, like land holding costs in the Yukon, that allow us to have such a big a package to explore. And so and then for going forward, our targets are, it's a big area, but some of the targets are about 25 to 30 kilometers from an old winter haul trail and the past producing Plata silver mine, which is just a super high grade occurrence. I think they actually helicoptered out their ore at one point, so it's pretty unbelievable. But so we're not far from there, the location is really what has given us a leg up in terms of being able to find such incredible targets with so little work done on them before.
Yep, excellent. Okay, so looking across the portfolio then, do you have any updates on any of your other assets? You've got quite a few in there and they've got some interesting geology in themselves, but do you have any updates on that for investors?
Yeah, so we are working to progress the whole portfolio without sort of losing focus on our main exploration thesis here. One exciting development was just last month, Crescat and along with Quentin Henney, they got excited about Ursa, a project which is also in the same rocks as Rogue and Inerson. Broadly speaking, it's in that same district overall, and they're excited not only about the gold, but the base metal potential there. There is just an absurd signature that we have in the same, in this base data that we've collected over this whole region through historic partners. And there's an area there where we have more than 10 kilometers of highly anomalous zinc, a multi-element base metal, sort of zinc, copper, nickel, vanadium, and a few other elements just lighting up there. In addition to silver and moly, and the zinc samples are they are up to over 1%, over a huge area, up to like 3%. So anyway, we with Crescat's strategic investment, we are putting out an aerial survey this year, just doing some electromagnetics to get a better sense of the system, as well as some surface work to support that, with an eye towards potential drilling earlier next year. And I say early by Yukon standards, so that's probably June. And then stepping out farther, we have another intrusion-related target similar to Rogue, but a ways to the west of this district called Rainbow. We'll be doing some surface work there to advance that and get a better understanding of the historic results. And then in the southwest Yukon, we've this is sort of another district that hasn't been the focus of the company, but it's a place that just really hasn't been looked at. And we have two properties down there called Tosh and Cliff, and we're basically following up on some very encouraging results. Tosh could be its own company. We're not there yet, but we're definitely happy to kind of keep progressing that as either a plan B or a future spin out, or that sort of a thing. And so we'll have some electromagnetic surveying done this year to shore up some pretty exciting geochem anomalies from past work there. And neither of those projects has ever seen a drill, and so we're kind of getting them up to that phase. But at the same time, we really like what we're seeing up in the Selwyn Basin, up in the Rogue Einerson area, and so we're very content to kind of keep exploring that while progressing these projects on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And some great optionality there for investors, with the other assets within the portfolio. Super. Okay. Talked a lot about Crescent, one of your shareholders there, and just want to touch on the company financials and the recent raise that you've done. You secured a private placement back in July, I believe. And Crescent Capital were involved with that. Can you just take viewers through the state of financings at the moment?
Yeah, so we're in a comfortable spot. We raised about a little north of 7 million out of the gate during the formative transaction for Snowline, and so we're well financed to go ahead with our plans so far, and we've burned through a good fraction of our exploration budget. We've been going aggressively out there, as investors likely want to see, but we're definitely not over budget. We're actually comfortably under budget, so that's also a nice place to be. We've accomplished what we want to accomplish, or we're on track to accomplish what we want to accomplish, and we still have a nice nest egg to go into the winter and even into next season. And on top of that, we had Crescat step in, which was a great vote of confidence for us. They like what they're seeing enough to kind of step up to the plate and say, we want more of this. And so they particularly are interested in, what to us is a tertiary project. So that, I think, speaks to the depth of the portfolio too. Not that we don't recognize not that we're not excited about it, but I mean, we're excited about all the projects that we have in our portfolio. And so, with them putting another $1 million into the pot, we're comfortable now. And depending on how aggressive we want to go next year, we may be looking at raising into the fall.
Yep, excellent. So your working capital is good, and you're under budget. That's great. And there's some other notable shareholders on the register as well. Could you just highlight that? And it must be quite an asset to have these shareholders involved at this early stage.
It definitely is. We were very fortunate to have caught the attention of some big names right out of the gate. I mean, it was Keith Neumeyer who I ran into and was showing him the property package, who kind of was able to bring Snowline kind of to the world. And he was just, I think, maybe jaw a little bit on the floor, like, why isn't this out there already? So we were really lucky to have that. Through Keith, some other big names came in. We have Palisades. Eric Sprott has invested in it. We're also fortunate to have the Matisics take notice of the company, that's like Paul Matisic. And it's been fantastic, and I think it kind of builds. Just having that attention kind of makes it easier to get more attention to an extent too. I mean, we're still pretty unknown as a company. We've got a lot of work to do on that front, but just getting those big names in early starts to turn heads. So I think we've got some nice momentum now, and hopefully we can continue to build on that.
Yeah, certainly, indeed, because it's quite a testament to the work and the assets that you launched the company in the pandemic. If that's right?
Yeah, that's right. It's been an interesting time to start a company for sure, but we've gotten through it so far, and gotten out there, and with careful protocols in place to protect the workers, protect the community, and a dash of luck thrown in, and we've been able to pull off a pretty exciting first season.
Excellent. Well, Scott, thanks very much for providing a first look into Snowline. It's been great understanding the assets and getting a steer on the company as well. So we look forward to catching up again later in the year on some of your updates. So thanks for speaking with us, ATV.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adam. Pleasure to be here.